I want to first thank you for the opportunity to have me here. And I absolutely appreciate it. Oop, here's the other controls. All right. To advance it, it's the yellow button. Oh, no, next. Green. Okay, gotcha. Okay, all right. Yeah, I went to A&M. The first thing I wanted to do in looking at this, I want to look at highway letting right quick for 2014. And I have a little slide here, and what this shows is for the year of 2014. You've got the months, have data from January up to September, and you've got the wrong way. Here's the white one for the point. Oh, there you go. All right. So right in here, you've got that. This is the engineer's estimates, and below that, you've got low bid, percentage under, and over. And if you notice in February, you've got the greatest percentage under the engineer's estimate, and in August you have the greatest percentage over. But what does that look? I thought a snapshot per quarter would be, so you could look at the number of jobs here. Let's look at the first quarter. January, February, and March. And if you know, February is the one that had the greatest percentage at 7.41. And you had 57 jobs bidding, $286 million letting. But look to here, year to date, the low bids came in 6% under the engineer's estimate. So that's quarter one. Let's look at quarter two. Quarter two, this is when you had finally in June, the low bid came in over the engineer's estimate at 1.27%. But notice the year to date went down to 3%. So right now we're at, the low bids are coming in 3% under the engineer's estimate. Okay, let's go on to the next quarter. Finally, in August, where I was talking about where you had the greatest percentage of where the low bids came in over the engineer's estimate, that equated into $18 million. There was 82 projects in that letting. And then year to date, though, by the end of September, this is very curious, the low bids came in 1.08% under the engineer's estimate. And for close to $3 billion, I kind of think, in my opinion, that's pretty good. So something pretty good is happening here, yeah? I mean, I think so. I don't know about anybody else, but you know, I'm just a lowly contractor now, so that's my opinion. But I thought 1%, so that's a pretty good thing. But you know, when we're thinking about, and I don't know if anybody ever follows the Whitley-Siddons as the came up, and you see the engineer's estimate, and then all of a sudden you see this guy leaves, you know, $1 million, $2 million, $3 million on the table, and you're thinking, what is his method of bidding these jobs? Well, I offer you one possible method. Oh, nope, I went ahead of myself. Right quick, before I did that, I just want to real quick, I did take a little bit of a poll of some districts to find out how they actually put their estimates together, very similar to the way I used to put them together when I was at TxDOT. Basically, you know, looking at the low bid pricing, looking at it from their district perspective, looking at items, looking at quantities, looking at 3 months moving, and looking at their regions and applying their factors. So going back to what I was saying before, is when you are looking at the Whitley-Siddons and you see all this money left on the table, you're wondering a method. Here is one possible method. There you go. If you notice, you have the different colors, and it does definitely mean different things, but I've been sworn to secrecy, and yeah, I can't tell you what that means, but no, I'm just all kidding aside. But you know, I guess we are in the 21st century now, so there is definitely a more Zen approach to estimating, and this is also another approach that you could use. So, but really, this is not exactly what happens, because you are definitely putting a pencil to the paper and crunching your numbers. And in all seriousness, when you're estimating a project, you're looking at the following. You're looking at materials, you're looking at your equipment, you're looking at your labor, and you're looking at your time. 4 most important components. And so you're always tearing it down and looking at these. Materials. When you're looking at the materials, you're looking at what itself. Was it, base, asphalt, concrete, steel? What's the availability? Am I in a rural, am I in a rural area where I only have one game in town and my pricing is going to be super high? What's my availability? Will I be able to get it when I want it? Or am I going to have any lag time in the ordering? How much is it going to take for me to get that material to the job? There is one material that has, and I think that which is crude, that really affects all parts of, I think, the business and the estimating aspect, as well as, I know it affected TxDOT when those prices were $4 or $5 a gallon. It affected our personal lives when we were at the gas pump, paying that much money. And so that is one example that affects asphalt, but the price also to run equipment to do all of that. So I thought, and one thing Jonathan asked, he goes, well, Annie, how about looking at oil futures? And I was like, ooh, okay. So I thought this is definitely something that affects it. And let's take a look at crude right quick. With crude oil in that refining process, you get different intermediate products and you get final products. And you can see from here, propane, here's our oil and asphalt. We've got jet fuel, diesel, gas, all of these products. And these are something that we're going to use. We're going to run our vehicles. We're going to run our equipment. We've got to take that all into account. Running your plants, things like that. So, crude oil pricing is pretty important. So, but what really affects crude oil pricing? This is that, and economics, supply and demand. But what in the last 50 years has really affected supply and demand? I would have to say world events and natural disasters. And just taking a look at this, and I'm going to talk probably more to the last 50 years, since I hate to say I've kind of been around for about that much. If you notice in 1970, you've got a barrel of crude is about $10. And then what happens here, in about 1973, and it starts jumping over $50, $60 a barrel. Well, what happened then? If you take that up, you've got the Yom Kippur War. And that was just basically, that was the Egyptians and the Syrians went and attacked the Israelis. The United States armed the Israelis. OPEC got pissed, and there you go. We started the arms embargo. And that's in a nutshell. That's my historical but basically that happened. But as you notice, things started to spike up. Right up here during the Iranian Revolution came up to about, up to 110. So in that just 10 years, you had such a spike. Starts to normalize. Here we are in the 21st century, and we're seeing this again. We had Katrina in 2005, and then you also had more conflicts overseas as well. So these are definitely factors that are affecting your pricing all the way around. What is another thing that's really affected us? Well, we've got the Eagle Ford Shale, which, actually it's been a great thing in the fact of the economic crisis. It's a great thing for Texas in regards to jobs and growth. It's been a bad thing for the highway system and the road system and the affected counties. And I'm sure all of you have, has affected y'all as well, or with your jobs. But where has it affected contractors? Well, yeah, there's more work, but what this has done is that this has really taken up a lot of labor, a lot of skilled labor going down there. They're paying really great salaries. So to maintain your skilled labor, it's going to take a lot more money to do that. And that is, you can't do anything without your labor. The other curious thing that this has had an effect on is your trucking pricing. These trucking firms, private, and that go down there, and they also are just making phenomenal money there. So the trucking that we're looking at, for example, I guess the end of last month, I was looking at a job I got a quote. My trucking was $1,000 for one truck. For an 8-hour day, it was $1,000. Plus, I had to pay more, and you're thinking, is that a lot? And it is a lot, because, you know, a few years ago, you were paying at night a premium of like $600 or $700 for a truck. That's over $100 an hour. So you have to work all of these things in there, and you're hoping that they don't take off on you, because sometimes they'll drop your first load and then they leave. So finding really good truckers too. So that is another effect of this as well. Let's talk about plans a little bit. I have a bunch of designers out there. You know, I was a designer. I understand this, and plans, I have to tell you, are so important. You know, it tells you where it is. It tells you what your limits are, scope of work, your bid items, how it needs to be built, what materials to spec. Lot of good information. But if there is an opportunity, actually, guys, to pay for something, pay for it. I know there's that lovely note, you know, this stuff is, you know, this is subsidiary to this item of work. If you're going to make it subsidiary, you know, put something for contractors' information. That is so helpful, because when you start having gray areas, your price is going to go up. If you don't know that, your price is definitely going to go up. Another thing is, don't just throw an item in just because you want to avoid a change order. And I know they're painful. They're painful on both ends. I've been on both ends, and I don't like change orders also. But throwing items are no good either, because what's going to end up happening is you're going to pay for it, because a contractor is not going to do the rolling of the dice. They're going to put money on it, and if you use it, you're going to pay for it. The next thing is, if you do put in an item, which I've seen this a few times for flexible base, and you put a quantity in, and then there's a note that says, the engineer shall mark it in the field. And you're like, okay, fine. And for a 1-mile project with, you know, divided 2 lanes, that's it. It's not too bad to figure your productions. But if I have a 10-mile project, 3 lanes in each direction, and he's going to mark it in the field, how am I going to figure out my production, how long it's going to take me? If you have an item and you're going to pay for it, put it in the plans and show where it's going to be. Even if it's, you know, if you don't have and want to do a visual because you're putting together and say, okay, it's, you know, at the between the intersection of this and this, halfway, anything to give that, because when those contractors call and ask those questions, they're trying to nail down all their items. Other note on plans is, and all the detail is great. One place that detail, you can definitely kill it with detail, is your sequence of work. I guess in my opinion, if someone's going to know how to build a job the best, it's going to be a contractor, because that's what he does day in and day out. Give the general of what you want done and when you want it done and whatever your restrictions are going to be, and that's fine. But don't detail it so much that you get lost in the details and you just don't know what's happening, because once you can't figure out what's wanted, your price will go up again. So that's super important. Let's see, wait a second. I had notes. I just want to make sure I hit those plans. I had written about 2 pages on those plans, and I want to make sure I covered every detail with that. All right, hold on. There's a balance between specific and not specific. I think I had said that. And if you need to pay for it, pay for it. And that's pretty important. It's pretty important. And also too is that if you don't know something or you're not sure, call up a contractor and ask them. And you don't have to tell them what project's for or anything like that. But I used to do that all the time. If I didn't know, I would call up, you know, of course I didn't trust them back then, but I'd call up 1 or 2 or 3 of them and I'd ask them questions. Hey, you know, if you were to do this, or how much would this take? Because it really helped me to be more realistic in putting things together. All right. Wait, green button, green button. Okay. Last thing I want to talk about is time. And time is is really important, and there's different views of time. There's first, the time is when you're looking at your items of work and putting your productions together. You know, how much can I install? How much can I remove? You know, how long is it going to take, you know, for a truck, you know, around for the truck to bring a load of hot mix and take it back? All that, you're looking at time. Also time in regards to labor. How much, you know, besides how many guys I'm going to need, how many hours is it going to take? Do I have to figure out any overtime to that? All of that. Equipment, running, you know, my equipment, operation time, getting it to the field, all of that. In your plans, you definitely put, you know, you have your time where you have your closures. If I do totally understand a lot of these jobs are going and are at night because it's, you know, where you have your least amount of traffic. But when you have limited hours, it's going to cost more. It just is, because you don't have the time to do it. And really getting, like I said, your trucking, things like that is more expensive. The other things too is if you don't figure enough days in your plans and we have to figure LDs, your price is going to go up. So when you're looking at that, that's why, you know, just if you're not sure what, you know, how much can someone do a night for this operation, this operation, this operation, ask somebody. Because if there's not enough time, we're going to put in LDs and we're going to put in barricades. If there's, you know, it has to be picked up a certain time and there's lane closure assessment fees, we're going to work those in too, because, you know, things happen. You know, equipment will break down, material won't get delivered, something will happen, and you can't pick up in time. So you're going to put those in there. And I mean, you know, you're the owner, and that you have every prerogative to do that. But just knowing with all of that, I'm just giving you the perspective on this side. Let's see. I had points on time as well. The last thing I just want to tell you is time is money. And if you're out on a project and there needs to be an answer, it's really, you know, it's really important to be timely with that. You know, when, you know, you start a project and you put your barricades and your name is out there, so you're liable for everything. And the goal of a contractor is really to do their work, quality, and I'm going to speak for Clark Construction of Texas. Our goal is when we do a project, is do it in a quality manner, in a safely manner, and in a timely manner. So if there's something that needs to be resolved, just do it, and it's not, you know, don't wait, even if it's painful, just get it done. And I guess last thing, time is money, and I think that's all I have for you. I hope, I think everybody's still awake, and I appreciate y'all coming and staying and being here, and thank you.